Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well, that you're all having a great day. Welcome back to the channel. The US-based crypto exchange known as Kraken has released a report for its VIP traders to the public, which says Bitcoin is on the verge of a multi-year breakout that could trigger a new bull market. The document highlights the leading cryptocurrencies movements inside a large bullish pennant since 2017. The pattern, Kraken says, suggests that the digital asset is in a multi-year consolidation in preparation for the next move up. They said, and I do quote, if Bitcoin can break through the pennant, surpass 10,500 US dollars, and thus set a higher high in the macro trend, the case can be made that Bitcoin is entering a new bull market. There's figure 2 right there. But Kraken says Bitcoin is not out of the woods yet. The crypto exchange also paints a bearish picture where the leading cryptocurrency respects the diagonal resistance. They said should Bitcoin fail to move higher, a back test of the pennant support at 6,200 would be possible. The crypto exchange notes the fact that the top cryptocurrency has been trading close to the diagonal resistance on the pennant at around 9,800 for 5 straight weeks. The report stresses that a breakout or a rejection could ignite a dramatic spike in volatility. So, it's weird the difference that a day makes. The news all over the place is relatively hyper bullish for the cryptocurrency market. I'm not sure exactly what triggered it. I'm not sure if we are simply at the end of a triangle, at the end of a pennant, at the end of a something, some other word that someone has out there for the market. This one says Bitcoin may be down 50% from its all-time highs, but Ethereum has registered an even more harrowing performance, even after rallying approximately 175% from the March lows. The asset remains more than 80% below its all-time high of 1,430 US dollars, according to Brave New Coin, an analyst named Josh Olowitz. Ethereum's one-week chart is flashing signals. It wants to rally 200% towards $750 in the coming months. He shared the chart below, which indicates that Ether has entered into the key Ichimoku cloud, resistance that is shared in red, referencing how the asset is likely to rally to the other end of the resistance in a so-called end-to-end move. He said, one-week Ethereum chart, end-to-end $750 triggers within the next few months. Probably, here's that chart right there. All over the place, there was tons of news regarding, and it was more altcoins than anything else, which I also found to be slightly interesting. This one says Stellar Lumen's price looks set to surge if it breaks 8 cents. This one says Ethereum's rocketing usage rates could fuel an explosive rally. Lumen shows clear signs of bullish trend reversal. This one says as data shows Bitcoin miners are done selling Bitcoin. Crypto fund manager calls it a bullish sign. This pretty much has to do with the fact that we remember the news, and I told all of you this last week as well. The news that was so damaging and so scary that we had that people were turning off their mining machines as the network's hash rate was readjusting, mining difficulty was readjusting. And every single article was about how woe is Bitcoin. And I was like, no, what happens is this happens all the time. It gets readjusted, people turn back on their machines. And what happened is that people were actually selling their old equipment. They were turning off the old machines, and a lot of people who had to pay their bills were simply selling the Bitcoin because this is how it always works when it comes to mining. I think a lot of people who don't know about Bitcoin mining don't know that the people, in order to pay a lot of their bills, have to sell the product that they are creating, which is Bitcoin. And now it appears that a lot of these smaller miners have none left to sell, and all the larger cryptocurrency Bitcoin mining farms are still holding on to all of their assets because they are larger and therefore not going to sell anytime soon. And this one says a key trend is forming for XRP and a swift rally could occur. There were, of course, some for Cardano and this coin, and that coin was also in the news that well, but it's quite rare to see that we get multiple news outlets talking about altcoins, because it's typically, especially at the beginning of a week, normally only about Bitcoin and Ethereum. So, for what it's worth, we're getting a rather large amount of news that tons of people around the world and different outlets are all assuming that. And the news that we had last week was stating that Bitcoin appeared to be on the cusp of moving higher this week. So this may be why we're seeing tons of news now about different altcoins apparently also potentially being able to do well, because if you all know, if Bitcoin goes higher, therefore everything is going to go, which is also keeping this in a rather weird point. Realize that we have not gone past 10,500 yet, which is rather interesting, because if that is the actual major resistance point, it is then even more interesting that every single time that the market tried to pass by that, that BitMEX and Coinbase just happened to have problems. Anyway, yeah, the trend seems rather bullish. A lot of price predictions going on for where these coins could be going. I think the more realistic one that I saw as of late was that if Bitcoin does pass by 10,500 and surges higher, that we could be potentially looking at a $14,000 Bitcoin, which at this point seems entirely believable because we've been there before. But yeah, let's move on. In just more confusing news, because it just never ends, the former deputy governor of the Chinese central bank, Wu Xiaoling, said in an interview with the local news media outlet over the weekend that Bitcoin has been, perhaps, blockchain's most successful use case so far. Despite the government's anti-crypto stance and unwillingness to regulate cryptocurrencies, the Chinese central bank and other higher officials have acknowledged and made efforts to raise awareness surrounding Bitcoin time and time again, which just only adds to all of our confusion. On the 5th of June, Wu Xiaoling became the latest prominent figure in the Chinese financial and regulatory industry to acknowledge the progress made by Bitcoin so far. Referring to commercial success, the ex-People's Bank of China executive said the blockchain technology had made a breakthrough with the Bitcoin network, and it will remain its most successful invention in the time to come. Governments and organizations around the globe have a lot to learn from this technology. Bitcoin, with its sovereign, free, and decentralized nature, has its own yada yada, so. She furthered that the rise in popularity of virtual currencies, of the digitization of fiat currencies, is imminent, and that they have been ingrained into the existing financial system to make it more reliable and robust. Trade, finance, investments, cross-border transactions, when done a verifiable blockchain network, become a lot more secure, transparent, and credible. I don't know what's happening in this country anymore. Like I just simply can't figure it out for the life of me. As it stands right now, we all know that Bitcoin trading is illegal, but why in the heavens, hear me out, would anyone, I don't care if they are former or current central bank executive, why would they praise or call Bitcoin a success, or say that I just don't, I want to understand so bad. I have almost a feeling that there are like tons of meetings that take place behind the scenes, and they have people like, okay, you get this week, you get that week, you get the third week, and you get the one right after. Where like simply at the beginning of the week, someone comes out with something positive about Bitcoin, and the next week they talk about like detaining people and throwing them in jail for it. And the next week somebody's like, oh, here's a PDF. Yeah, everyone please read about Bitcoin. And then the next one they're like, Bitcoin is banned here. How dare anyone even think about Bitcoin? Remember when we had the news, this is a while ago, where they had like that Bitcoin PDF that came out. And then I think like a week later, it was like trending on their social media platforms. I wonder why, because the government told everyone to look at Bitcoin. And they were like blocking people's accounts for even writing the word Bitcoin. And it's like, but you told every... Anyway... this was all over the place, and I guess rightfully so, because anyway, the former head of China's central bank has called Bitcoin a success. I'm not sure if this is trolling. I'm not sure if it's boredom on their part, Or is it simply like a hat tip nod in other people's direction, telling them, hey, we also like this as well? I can't figure it out. I guess we'll figure it out in about a good 8 years. If Bitcoin hits $1 million and all the rich people are partying it up because they've been buying it. Anyway, that's that news. I don't even know how to end this story. It gets weirder every week. I'm going to assume next week there's going to be a building that's going to be built in China using Bitcoin, and they're going to have a gigantic B symbol, and then they'll tell people not to buy Bitcoin the week after, because it just seems to be going in that direction. I don't. Let's move on. Next up, last year saw a lot of crypto controversies with various social media platforms. Is that how they... Okay, this is a weird sentence. This led to a serious call for a decentralized solution where no single authority will have the capacity to censor content. In an attempt to answer some of these calls, the publisher of EOS, Block One, announced the development of Voice, a blockchain-based social media platform intended to deliver transparency and to put the control back with its users. Voice is a blockchain-based social media app that is supposedly going to be more transparent than conventional platforms. It is intended to put the control back in the hands of its users. It's being built on top of the EOS public blockchain and running on the EOSIO protocol. This will supposedly make all interactions on Voice public, hence delivering the much-needed transparency. Earlier this year, the platform received a serious investment of $150 million from Block One, reportedly. In a recent Twitter thread, Salah Zalatimo, the CEO of Voice, said that the platform will be launched on the 4th of July, slightly ahead of schedule. However, at this point, they said only registered users will be able to publish or engage. Registration will remain by request until the 15th of August, when users can begin to invite their friends. Wow, how nice of them. The platform has been in beta testing since the 14th of February, and as such, those who have taken part in it will be able to experience it from earlier on. The rest will have to wait until August. So I guess the news is that Voice is going to be launching on the 4th of July. I remained skeptical if it was going to launch sometime this year. I assume it is being done so earlier simply because it appears everything is launching around this time. There are a lot of different projects that are launching between the June to beginning of August timeframe, and I assume that the people from EOS don't want to be left out in the cold. Let us not forget that, at least if you haven't been here before, to sign up for Voice, apparently from the information that we received before, you have to give them pretty much all the information you would for just about every other platform. And you also have to show them like a government ID or a passport so they know that it's actually you. It's kind of weird. I know that people are going to use this. I will tell you right now, I am never, ever, ever going to use Voice. Not in a bajillion years. I think the only way I would use Voice, and I'll tell you this right now, is if I'm not giving them a government ID. Like, that just seems completely out of line and completely out of the question. If they have it so that it's like Instagram, where you could just simply sign up and like maybe they have like a little like red thing next to my name where it's like, oh, this isn't verified. That's totally fine. I will show you a screenshot, an image of what my account looks like, what the numbers corresponding to it are. Therefore, you'll be able to follow me, and that's, once again, a big if, but I have a feeling that won't happen, simply because also, for those not paying attention, the SEC has become quite obsessed with any platform that is launching a digital token. I think there's going to be like a voice coin or something like that, and you will have to go through KYC to be able to use the platform and therefore use the coin. So, yeah, this was also everywhere. Voice is launching earlier. I'm interested to see what the numbers are going to be. $150 million into a project like this is monstrous. It's a huge amount of money. And I want to see if it's going to be popular, if you know what I'm saying. Anyway, Let's move on. In other news, the most widely used US-based cryptocurrency exchange, Coinbase, went down during Bitcoin's latest surge above $10,000. After a few days of discontent from the community, the company recently published a statement claiming that the unusually high traffic prompted technical difficulties. As a Crypto Potato reported recently, the US-based exchange went offline for nearly an hour when Bitcoin conquered the coveted $10,000 level. Unfortunately for Coinbase, this was another example in which the platform was unable to serve its millions of customers during a time of severe volatility within the cryptocurrency market. According to the company's explanation on what precisely transpired, the issue came from a 5x traffic spike in about 4 minutes. They said this traffic spike affected a number of our internal services, increasing latency between services. Okay, this led to a process saturation on the web servers responsible for our API, where the number of incoming requests was greater than the number of listening processes, causing the request to either be queued and timeout or fail immediately. Sure. Although trading through the API remained functional in those 2 hours, the sudden surge of traffic viewed in the graph below impacted not only the main website, Coinbase.com, but also pro.coinbase.com and the mobile applications. There's the chart right there. To tackle the problem, Coinbase noted it redeployed the API at 1620 shortly after it began to increase the machine servicing the traffic. Upon its completion, the previous deploy's instances were taken out of rotation, leading to another 2-minute outage due to instances saturating and being market unhealthy. Who talks like that? And being market. Okay, so the point is, Coinbase says their systems couldn't handle it, which I guess we could have all figured out because it couldn't handle it. The problem remains. The main problem is that it crashed multiple times over the last couple of months whenever we have passed by 10,000. The issue now remains is we still have not passed by 10,000. When we do pass by 10,000, is their system going to be able to handle it? Are we going to have yet another flash crash on BitMEX? Are we going to have someone tripping over the wire once again? Because, once in a year is okay. But 7 to 8 times between them and BitMEX, they're like playing volleyball back and forth. It just passes from one terrible court to the other. If this is true, and we need to pass by 10,500 to get the ball really rolling, but we can't pass by 10,500 because they keep breaking, that is no good. Anyway, that's what Coinbase said their deal was. This is their, I don't want to use the word excuse. I'm sure this is probably what happened, giving them the benefit of the doubt. The idea is just please, buy like one extra computer, like buy a Dell or something like that and just have it in the corner, like as a backup. Because clearly, as the largest crypto exchange in the US, you should be prepared. Like at any given point, you should have it so that you are prepared for at least 25 million people to jump onto your platform all at once, because, $10,000 Bitcoin. If all these calls for a $50, $60, $70, $80,000 Bitcoin, $100,000 Bitcoin, or by the end of next year are to be true, you gotta keep up. Anyway, that's Coinbase's reasoning news, and let's move on. Next up, the amount of Ether locked by Open Finance, or decentralized finance dApps, now exceeds $1 billion according to streams from DeFi Pulse, a site that tracks the performance of financial dApps. A milestone for the emerging trustless finance subsector, and most importantly, Ethereum, from where most DeFi apps are being launched from. Lending rates in DeFi dApps remain high. Part of this is because Ether, which is the collateral required for borrowing loans, is an asset whose price fluctuates. Did not know that. Wow. When prices rise, instead of simply holding, investors can use the asset to earn above market rates. This could explain the swelling of the total amount of Ether locked into decentralized finance. Interestingly, the spot price of Ether is positively correlated, what you don't say, and syncs with the amount of coins locked by these apps. I would have never known that. That is, wow. I mean, logic, pew. For those of you who do not know, in 2017, ICOs and STOs and IEOs were kind of the name of the game. The entire focal point of Ethereum right now is decentralized finance and people building decentralized apps or dApps on top of Ethereum. And when you do these things, they lock up Ether. And when you lock up an asset and there's less of it circulating around, the asset's value goes up in price. So of course, logically, the more Ether that gets locked up, the more the price will rise. Thus my sarcasm a couple of seconds ago. I guess the interesting part is that there's now over $1 billion just of Ether locked within these dApp locations, if you will. The higher Ether's price goes, the more Ether that actually ends up getting locked up in these DeFi projects because people want higher interest rates and they want to make more money from the other collateralized coins and all this other stuff. Keeping in mind, this is probably the trend of where one of a large portion of Ether's use case is going to come in. People simply locking up their Ether to build apps and dApps on top of it. And the more Ether that gets locked up, the higher the price goes. The higher the price goes, the more people want to buy Ether. The higher Ether's price goes, the more it gets locked up in the proof of stake. And it just causes this insanely odd, vicious circle. I guess this is where we were getting those predictions of a $4,000 Ether coming from. What have you, it does seem slightly believable if the last time we ended up hitting 1,400. Anyway, yeah, there's more Ether being locked up in DeFi, and of course, why not? It only makes sense. I'm pretty sure there are tons of companies out there also realizing, all the governments who are giving a wink and a nod towards Ether, and I'm guessing they're like, okay, well, this is clearly going somewhere. Anyway, that's the Ethereum news, and let's move on. And to finish things off, without a doubt, the United States has the highest percentage of total Bitcoin ATMs installed around the world. However, a recent report showed that authorities in the country might be coming after the machines as they work towards combating money laundering. The development follows a report by CipherTrace, a blockchain analysis company, that disclosed that transactions made across borders in 2019 accounted for 74% of all Bitcoin transfers from digital currency exchanges. To a large extent, the operations were done. No. Do you understand how insane? Okay, let me try and put this into context for you. The fact that there are still borders, or even digital borders or money borders, is very 18th century. Like, it's completely antiquated. None of this actually makes sense anymore. And it may be because we ourselves, so lawmakers are a completely different ball game altogether. But us, like, I grew up completely with the internet. I grew up living in a very digital world. I now know, especially all of you as well, if I am in Mexico and I want to send an email to someone in South Africa, this is possible. This is easy because borders, essentially, especially digital ones, do not really exist. So the idea that you can send all forms of data immediately around the world, and anyone in the entire world can access this data regardless of if there is a dotted line on a map somewhere or not, and how that extends to actual money is also completely nonsensical. Like, it feels like so much of the infrastructure of the current world is just, it's made for around a good 60, 70, 80 years ago. None of it really applies anymore. This is why I think a lot of people sometimes, like when we first started talking about KYC, AML, and all this other stuff, especially when it came to Bitcoin transactions, like I think it infuriated people because it doesn't really make any sense. You can send all other types of forms of data or information quick as a button. That's not a saying. Rapidly quick around the world. But the idea that you sending Bitcoin, once again, from Mexico to South Africa would then be illegal in some sort of way, as it's also just data on a computer, is weird. It's odd, right? They said precisely 88% of the cross-border transactions involving Bitcoin were processed through the machines. As per the blockchain analysis company, these funds that left the US were mostly sent to digital currency exchanges abroad, which are considered as high-risk avenues. Why? Because they're not within their borders? Like, none of this logically makes sense anymore. We are in a completely different world, and this is why it's clear that digital currencies are going to make it. I think even outside of the entire idea that Bitcoin is going to go up in price, it's the idea that money should be able to move around freely. Everything else that we have, like even me making this video in Canada, all of you around the world, and I can see on the analytics where everyone is located. You're all around the world, and you're absorbing this information from my computer on a website through your phone or through your tablet immediately. Like, there's no delay, there's no real latency in anything that you're getting. That's how data is shared now. That's just how the world kind of is. So the idea that, like, even it just seems logical that someone would take paper, put it into a machine, get Bitcoin, and be able to send that around the world to anyone who they wanted to, because that's how data is transferred now. I can't send US dollars in an envelope to my friend in France. It's CipherTrace explained that high-risk platforms are infamous for nurturing illegal financial activities. Wow. CipherTrace is also, it's CipherTrace and what's the name of the other company? There are two companies right now that are just they want to make it seem as though every single transaction happening within the cryptocurrency space just has to be illegal in some sort of way. Like they just can't be actual real life transactions. Like, it has to always be some type of illegal avenue, and therefore this is what makes their companies and their businesses so much or so needed in so many ways. High risk platforms, legal activities, including the act of money laundering. While some of the exchanges might not explicitly be nefarious, the unlawful transactions involved with them are the reasons for concern per the company. On this note, John Jeffries, one of the officials at CipherTrace, said that Bitcoin ATMs in the country are likely the next target for authorities. As the screw-up actions against illegal financial transactions, the cryptocurrency machines will allure significant regular... What? This is... I'm not the only one, right? Like, I understand where they're coming from. Like, I understand what the laws are, but that's not how reality is anymore. Like, this is... where do I even begin? The idea that in the future we are going to have private transactions on Bitcoin, on Litecoin. Vitalik Buterin has said many times that he wants to have private transactions on top of Ethereum. Like, these, you won't be able to stop them. Like, the what was one of the things that someone said years ago? Like, Pandora's box has been opened. Like, even if you wiped out all the every single cryptocurrency got wiped out in one massive wave, the next day there would be around 30 of them, and then 55 of them, because people would continue to make them just based off of the old metrics of the other ones, and they would automatically implement private transactions into them. It just seems very odd. Like, it seems like such a... The word isn't power grab. Like, they're just trying to maintain the status quo and how things were before. Like I said, I understand what the laws are, but that's not what the reality is going to be in the next 10 years. This is why I think they're all like desperately trying to create central bank digital currencies and central bank blockchains and stuff like that so that money can flow through them exclusively. But we already have Bitcoin. Like, Bitcoin completely circumvents that entire thing. Like, if Bitcoin has private transactions and passes by $100,000, $150,000, $200,000 per Bitcoin, there's no going back to the old system. Everyone's not exclusively, but they will simply move into our cryptocurrency market in droves, like in huge, massive waves, to acquire as much as possible to not miss any potential further spikes up in price, which would then also cause the prices to also move even further. And then this is, remember the article that we had last week where that guy was like, if people really understood what Bitcoin was for, each Bitcoin would be worth $1 trillion. It's because there's no need for a new financial system. There's no need to even spruce up the old one. We have the systems already. All Bitcoin needs is just new side chains, or even more so, Bitcoin as the actual store value and use XRP as an actual like sending money to your friends back and forth, or send Ether, or send Tezos or any other. It's very odd. You can even argue as far as like Tether. We can use that because you can rapidly send a stable form of value around the world in seconds without actually having to go through PayPal or any other intermediaries. Like we have the system that we already need. So anyway, this was kind of all over the place as well. The news that regulators are going to come down on Bitcoin ATMs. No one should be surprised. I think this will only fuel the rise of other platforms and other places, and people will simply figure out other ways to get them. There's no stopping the train at this point. It's on a huge. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. You get what I'm saying. Anyway, it's weird. It's very weird to get news like this because I think just being in crypto, we understand that the old world is no more. Like this is the new reality, and it's only a matter of time until everyone jumps on the train. Anyway, let's move on. As always, a very special thank you to my Patreon supporters. They are Professor Wally from Gunbot University, Oscar Maldonado, Utopia569, Yasha Harari, Moonman High, XRP, The Pothead, Joshua Vineyard, Martin Stoyer, Chongololo, Tsongololo, Nostromo, John Sarson, The Animal Reader, A Bibliophobia, Todd Mullis, Adam Graysick, Moher Maroney, Master Ventures in Thailand, Jared Schneider, Wise Knight Owl, 242 to the World, Crypto Joe, Bankroll Network, Adobo, Crypto Artist, Coldy 3D, Nicholas from Earth, One Piece, One Love, Damien, Setsuna, Nick Kanaya, Richie Richard III, Vlad the Impaler, Paxis, Nick Mangialavori, Anthony Charles, Jim Garner, Jeremy Fox, Minting Coins, Miller Hitch Test Every Day, and Kyle Skips Leg Day, Yes to Crypto, Bodie McButtface, Anytime Fitness, Monks Corner Staff, Arfmedic17, Bake Me a Cake, Tigera Machonisa, On Crypto with Lionel, Crayola Michelle, URL, Bolero Bastos, and hold on, I have to sneeze. Thank you all very, very much for your support. Thank you to everyone who is a member of the channel. Click the little join button below. At the moment, the crypto market is all over the place. Bitcoin is at $9,700 US. There was a little spike sometime yesterday. We're now trending completely sideways. It looks like it may be trying to do like another little dip over there. A lot of the top 10 coins are completely in the red. Tezos is up barely. Tron is up. Crypto coin chain token.com is up. A lot of random coins. I think it's just simply like little surges or pumps in price of people trying to make some type of gains as the market literally has no idea where it is trying to go. But yeah, we'll see how the rest of the week holds out for us. The amount of bullish price news could be indicative of higher movements as we move forward. But once again, with this market, you never know. Bitcoin could be scratching the surface at $9,999. And then for all we know, we get news the next day that Poloniex and BitMEX both went down, and then we get the price drops all over again. Anyway, that is definitely going to do it for this video. I do hope you all enjoyed. Hope you all are having a great day, a great morning, a great afternoon, a great evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I do hope that it is absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching and or listening. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.